Okay, let's get started. So yesterday, on the first of the 100 days till 2020, I started this new cooking show called Daily Soup. Hi, here we are. And I made a soup with leftover barbecue ribs, beans, and some cabbage. And it was super yummy. But I had a ton of it left over. Like so much of it left over. So I let it cool down and I stuck it in the fridge overnight. And now I'm going to bag it up to get ready to put in the freezer. So that I can wash my pot and use it to make today's soup. Today's soup is going to be a cheap and easy, cheap and cheesy potato soup. So, I'm going to pull the bones out of these leftover ribs and I'm tossing them in my crock pot because I went to the grocery store today and got some really great deals on some scrap meat. So today we're also going to restart my perpetual stocks. Because I make soup so much, having those perpetual stocks is great so that I don't have to use store-bought broth. And a perpetual stock flavor changes a little bit over time. It matures as you add different things. Oh, that smells so good. And it still smells good. It's cold, but it still smells good. So what I'm doing is I've just got some quart size freezer bags. I'm just going to fill a few of them up. And then later, if I'm having an off day or somebody shows up hungry, I can just pull the bag out of the freezer, stick it in a pot, warm it up, and I have yummy, comforting soup. Not that I actually have many people coming over hungry. Not that I have many people coming over at all. I am, after all, a hermit. Now, when I put soups in bags like this in the freezer, I will stick them in a pan like this, just in case of leaks. Because it can happen. In fact, it does. Not just it can happen, it does happen. Now, what I'm doing with each of these bags is just making sure I have a good chunk of rib meat in there and then filling it the rest of the way with the beans. That way, every time I use one of these soups, and it looks like I'm probably going to get about 3 bags out of this, 3-quart bags, which is great. There's another one of those bones, so I'm just going to toss that in there. And wipe that up. And this is messy. Gwen messes. That is what Gwen is a pro at, is messes. Set that right in there. One thing I have learned in my life is that no matter how good you are at something, no matter how much you know how to do it, how much you like doing it, there's going to be days when you can't. Whether it's because of mental illness or physical illness or just times of those crises that happen in life sometimes. death in the family can throw you off so that your executive functioning is down. And so, no bean, nothing for you. Squirt bottle, everybody. Out, 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 out. Out, out, out. Squirt bottles are great for training cats. But when they smell yesterday's leftover barbecue rib soup, they get super defiant. Okay, so I'm going to stick these in the freezer real quick. Okay. Had to rearrange a few things in the cupboard and then trip over everything. So when you have those times when executive functioning is down, you need something quick and easy. Are you sure squirt bottles don't work for toddlers, Nicole? Have you tried a squirt bottle for the toddler? I can tell you this, they might not work for toddlers. They do work on adult men who have temper tantrums. Just saying. So anyway, I use my times when I have good executive functioning. Like last week, my executive function was gone, just gone. And it started to come online a little bit Friday, came back a little bit more on Saturday, and now I'm just feeling good and I can do the things. So now, while my executive functioning is good, let me move that camera so you guys can see me a little bit better. When my executive functioning is good, is when I'm doing all the things. I'm making all the soup so that I have lots of leftovers so that I can freeze them. I'm baking lots of things so that I can freeze that. I'm making lots of ferments, and I'm just doing all sorts of stuff so that the next time my executive functioning goes down for whatever reason, there could be any reason at all. It could be a fibro flare. It could be an IBS flare. Hopefully it's not another life crisis. I can't really deal with another life crisis right now, but I suppose if I had to, I would. It could be another depressive episode. There's any number of things that can cause executive functioning to go down. But the next time my executive functioning goes down, I will have used this time when I'm doing well to be prepared. So, now that my pot is clean, we're going to start our stupid easy, cheap and cheesy potato soup. This was a recipe that I came up with during one of those times when we were so broke that I had to go to the food bank, and I came back with all this stuff, and one of the things that was in it was a couple of boxes of au gratin potatoes. And at the time I was feeding 3 of us. It was Man Beast and his girlfriend and I. We have an open marriage. It's weird. They broke up. She moved out. Long story. Anyway, so I'm not going to use all of that bacon. So I'm going to take half of it. I'm going to stick it in a baggie. And I'll use that sometime in the next couple of days. Stupid, easy, cheap, and cheesy. Yes, that's going to be, that would be a good book title. Stupid, easy, cheap, and cheesy meals. So we were broke as fuck, and I had to go to the food bank and come back with all this stuff, and it's like, well, what the fuck am I going to make with this? So what I did was I just tossed a couple of boxes of au gratin potatoes into my 10-cup rice cooker. Added a bunch of water, because we didn't even have a gallon of milk at that point. That's how broke we were. Added a bunch of water. I had some cheap-ass macaroni and cheese. You know, the cheap-ass kind, the powdered kind. Those came in there with the food bank, too. So I took the cheese packets out of it, and I ended up using the noodles for something else. Took the cheese packets out of a couple of those and tossed those into the soup. And I had a few handfuls of shredded cheddar cheese, and I tossed those in there. And I just let it cook in the rice cooker. And then we ate it, and it was so fucking good. So right now, I just chopped up those chunks of bacon. Like, that's it. Just chopped them into chunks. And I'm going to set them on the stove on low heat and let them crisp up. While we start to work on everything else. And I knew I should have grabbed another thing of paper towels from the cupboard before I started, but oh well. We're just going to have to deal with it. There, we'll clean that later. Okay. So, for our stupid, easy, cheap and cheesy potato soup, I bought a box of au gratin potatoes today. They were like 89 cents at the cheap grocery store around the corner. I live in a very poor neighborhood. One of the poorest neighborhoods in Flint. And so all we have is cheap-ass discount poor people grocery stores. But you know what? It's fucking awesome because there's a lot that you can do with the stuff that you get at cheap-ass grocery stores. And your food budget goes a lot further. So you just pour your potatoes in there. Open your cheese mix and pour that in there. And while the bacon's cooking, I am going to slice up an onion. Now I'm going to peel just the very outer skin off. Cut the ends off. And I'm going to set the ends aside. And there's a not great spot there, so we're just going to throw the not great spot away. But any scraps that don't have any mold or anything on them, that don't have any bad spots on them, the scraps I'm just going to set aside because today I'm also going to start 2 perpetual soups. I mentioned yesterday that with the chaotic events of last week, I had completely forgotten about my perpetual soups, and they have to be maintained daily or they go bad. And they went bad. And I'm not mad. I'm not upset. It was just a freak accident. Shit happens. So I cleaned the crock pots out. One of them, it was so bad that I decided not to clean the crock pot out. I threw it away, but it was a crock pot that I got for $4 at the thrift store. So I'll just buy another one sometime at the thrift store. Whew. Pro trick for chopping onions. Run it under cold water. Oh, Kelly, you get them. I'm not even paying attention to the creeper dudes. Oh, freaking hate creeper dudes. I go through after the video and block them all. So if you're creeping on my live because you think you're going to see something or you're going to hit on me or whatever, like Kelly said, I am married. It is not the greatest marriage by a long shot, but I am married. I am. Okay, so yeah, it is an open marriage, but I'm not actually interested in adding anyone to the marriage. It's more that my husband's a whore. And I love him. I don't expect him to be anything but who and what he is. And he very much enjoys having multiple sexual partners, and I'm fine with that. And I've been that way myself in the past, where I enjoyed having multiple sexual partners. I love sex. It's just that my focus right now is on my spirituality and my spiritual work. And doing what my guides tell me to do. Asshole. Alright. So the onions are chopped. And my eyes are watering. Oh, rinse my hands one more time. Like, the whole cold water rinsing the onions works a bit, but you're still going to cry. I'm just going to stir this bacon up a bit because I want that bacon good and crispy. While that bacon's cooking, I'm going to grab some stuff from the fridge. Cheese, big old bag of shredded cheese, and milk. And also, scoop those onions over. Got some goodies at the grocery store today. I got 75 cents. I got 1.09 pounds of soup bones. And with these are going to go in with those rib bones, and those are going to be part of the beef perpetual stock. Then for $3.08, I got chicken gizzards, and I'm going to divide these up, and I'm in probably into quarters, and I'm going to put them into plastic bags. And 3 of the bags I'm going to stick into the freezer, and the other quarter of these I'm going to use to start a chicken stock. I think I also still have some turkey necks in the freezer that I can add to that. Then I got some pork stew meat and some beef stew meat. And those are going to be for soups for tomorrow and Wednesday. Stir this bacon up again. And that bacon is done enough that I'm going to add the onions to the bacon. And I do that because it adds some more bacon flavor. It gets those onions sauteed really good. Now, I like a lot of onions, so I'm using a whole onion in the soup. If you don't like a lot of onion, you don't have to use a whole onion. If you don't like onion at all, you don't have to use onion at all. All of my soups are really about, what do I have? Do I have enough money to go get something else to add to it? Or do I have to make do with just what I got? So, that's cooking. Let's take these beef bones out of their package. And actually, I'm not even going to put all of these into the soup pot. I'm going to bag some of these up. and stick them in the freezer. Because then when I go to strain and refresh the perpetual stock, because it has to be every day, in the morning, I turn the crock pot on high to boil. And I let that boil all morning long. And then I turn it down to warm. It stays on nonstop. The soup stays, the perpetual stocks stay cooking nonstop. You do not want the temperature to get below safety, and your crock pot warm setting will keep it at that safety level. Otherwise you're just asking to make yourself sick with food poisoning. So they always have to be hot. And every few days, what I'll do is I will strain out the stock that's in there. I'll strain out all the bones. I'll strain out all the vegetables. I'll strain everything out of it. And I'll take a cup of the old stock, put it back into a clean crock pot, add some fresh bones, some fresh meat, some new vegetable scraps, and fill it back up with water, and I'll just repeat that process continually. Now, here's a little trick for perpetual stocks. One of the reasons we do the perpetual stocks with the bone is because the bone marrow has so many good nutrients in that. So we let this cook and cook and cook and cook, and it just cooks all of that good stuff out of the marrow. It pulls all the cartilage and all of the just wonderful, good stuff that's in the bones. And I add some apple cider vinegar, which helps that process. It helps to extract all those nutrients. You don't need a lot, just a splash. And so remember those onion scraps? Just a couple of those onion scraps I'm just going to toss right in there. And that will help with flavoring. All right. I'm going to grab a jug of water, stir my bacon and onion. Then I'm just going to fill this crock pot that's got a couple of beef bones and it's got some onion sliced, chopped into there. I'm just going to fill it with water. I'm going to put it on my crock pot and I'm going to turn it on to high. And I'll let that boil, and before I go to bed, I'll turn it back to warm. And then after I get up in the morning, I'll start it all over again. I'll turn it up to high, let it boil for a little bit, add more water if necessary, turn it down in the afternoon. Okay. Now, let's do the same with some of these chicken gizzards. There's so much classism and racism in the way we are conditioned with food. Certain cuts of meat are more associated with poor people versus rich people. And a lot of those things that we're just like, ew about, are so full of nutrition. So I'm gonna, more onion scraps. Take about a quarter of those chicken gizzards. I'm going to grab some baggies and bag up the rest. Stick those in the freezer. So then tomorrow, I'm making a apple cider pork stew. And I'm going to use potatoes and I'll use celery for that. And so any vegetable scraps that I have, I will toss. I will divide between the two stock pots. And that's just what I do as I'm cooking. Any vegetable scraps that I have, any meat cuts that I cut off that I'm not going to be using to cook, any bones will go right into the stock pot to continue to add to that. After a few days, all of the nutrients have been leached out of the bones and the vegetables. And so then I strain the vegetables out and add more. Keep it going. Then when I make a soup, all I have to do is grab a cup of the stock right from the crock pot, strain any stuff out of it, and I have my base for my soup. And it's super yummy. And go me, I remembered to fill all my water jugs this morning. And now that is on high, and that will boil, and I will trim them off. The bacon is done. So I'm just going to use my spatula to drain the bacon a little bit. It's okay if some of that grease gets into that soup because that's flavor. So much of our flavor for our food comes from the fat. That is flavor. And so what happens is if we have low foods, because the diet industry for so long has told us that calories are what make us fat, and fat is what makes us fat. No, what makes me fat is PCOS. But anyway, if you eat a lot of low-fat foods, you don't get a whole lot of flavor to it. The flavor has to be made up in other ways, and those are not always so great. And so you end up eating more because food and our brain are so connected. The way we experience the food goes towards our satisfaction. And if we're not satisfied, then we're going to want to eat more until we do feel satisfied. So I have tossed the box of au gratin potatoes with the seasoning in there. I always smell my milk. Don't trust the dates. Sometimes milk will go bad before the date. Sometimes it will last significantly longer. So I always smell my milk. And milk is one of the very bad, sour milk is one of the very few smells that will make me want to puke. So I save my jugs. I will rinse that out, wash it with soapy boiling water. Oh, I forgot one more thing that's going in here. A block of cream cheese. This is just, oh my God. It adds creaminess, it helps to thicken it, and it adds more protein. If you were watching yesterday, Rocky, naughty kitties. If you're watching yesterday, I mentioned that my formula for soup is a protein, liquid, and fillers. Well, we got bacon for some protein in here, but a lot of the other protein comes from cheese. So I'm just going to toss a whole block of cream cheese right in there. You don't have to do this, but it adds flavor, it adds creaminess, and cheese. Lots of cheese. And I'm just going to toss a couple of handfuls of this Mexican cheese blend. Okay, like 4 handfuls of Mexican cheese blend. And then I'm going to stuff my face with them. I'm going to drink some of my homemade soda, wash it out. Oh man, I love that cranberry mango. I'm going to be making some more of it tomorrow. This is cranberry mango juice with water kefir. Let set out for a second ferment for about a week. It's not quite as bubbly as I would like as it was the first time. I think I used more juice than kefir this time, so I need to remember that the next time I'm making some. I'm just going to break up this cream cheese in here a little bit. Put my lid on it. I'm going to put this in the rice cooker that's over there on the other counter, and I'm going to start it cooking. All right, that is cooking. I have some bags of meat to toss into the freezer. I need to grab this bowl and rinse that out real quick. Now we're going to make some sauerkraut. And red paper towels. Well, not totally. I have a bunch in the cupboard. So for sauerkraut, you just need salt and cabbage. This is the cabbage, leftover cabbage from yesterday's soup. I'm just going to get a big knife. And just start chopping this cabbage. This is a red cabbage. I've never made a red cabbage sauerkraut before. And I'm slicing this cabbage thin. The last time I made sauerkraut, I'd ended up slicing them thick, and when it came time to eat it, it was really yummy. It was really, really good, but I decided I kind of prefer it in smaller pieces. Now, this cabbage core, the very center, I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to toss it into the perpetual pot. You add all your veggie scraps right into your perpetual stocks, and you're getting every bit of nutrition out of those veggies that you possibly can. When it comes time to strain those stocks, the strained out veggies that you're not going to eat, all the nutrition has been sucked out of them, or at least all the human nutrition has been sucked out of them. Those go into the compost pile. Just toss that into the pot and add a little bit of salt. Just toss that salt out there. And I still have this whole other half head of cabbage that I need to chop up. So each time I chop a layer, each time I toss a layer in there, I'm going to add more salt to it. Again, I'm pulling those cores out, those center cores. And I'm just going to toss those cores right into my stock pots. And that's all we're going to do. We're just going to chop it thin. So the way sauerkraut works is you have your cabbage and you put your salt in it. You mix it in really good. And the salt pulls all of the liquid out of the cabbage. You might look at cabbage and think there's not a lot of liquid in there, but there's actually a lot of liquid in the cabbage. Another layer of salt. Another thing of cabbage. And it creates an environment. That leaf is a little bit soft. Not gone off, but a little bit soft. So I just tossed it in the pot. The salt creates an environment where bad bacteria can't exist. And only good bacteria can exist. Lactobacillus and a few other good kinds of bacteria. And those feed off of the sugars in the cabbage or any other vegetables that you ferment. Sauerkraut is a type of fermentation, and you can ferment pretty much anything. So the salt creates that environment that prevents the bad bacteria and encourages the good bacteria, which feeds off of the sugars in the cabbage and changes the flavor. So it's no longer cabbage, it's sauerkraut. And as I said, with each of these, I'm just adding a layer of cabbage. There's another leaf that's not so great, so I'm going to toss that in there. Oh, thank you. These are the 4 sets that I wear now of beads. This large set I got in 2015 from a friend. This is an amethyst set that I bought off some cheap site years ago. It broke once. I had to restring it, but I love it. This set was made for me by a friend. And this hummingbird set I made for myself. I use prayer beads a lot. They help with my anxiety. Even just having them on helps to soothe me. And for a lot of my magic and a lot of my work, I will chant on a set of prayer beads because they help to focus. You say your chant and you move your beads through your fingers, and you say your chant and you move the bead through your finger, and over and over and over again for the number of beads that are on the strand. Most of my strands are 108 beads. That's a pretty common number for prayer beads. It comes from Hindu tradition. And I just find it to be a useful length because if your chant is about a sentence long, you can get through a whole set of prayer beads in 10 minutes. And so if you can set aside 10 minutes of your day to chant on a set of prayer beads, that's 10 minutes of magic every single day. Every single day. Just 10 minutes. Now, of course, some of my chanting ends up being a whole lot more than 10 minutes, particularly when I'm doing my Magic Money days and I'm doing a chant all around each prayer beads for every person that's on it. It's now gotten to where it takes me several hours to get through everybody. So I will sit and do a chant. Tilly Ann, get your butt down. I will do a chant for a person, and then I'll go do something else, and then I'll go to do a chant for the next person on the list, and I'll go do something else. Clean that up. We're going to squirt some naughty kitties. Zoe especially has been really defiant since Mandy's accident. She and him had really, really bonded. And now that he's not here, she is just being a holy terror. So So now all I'm doing is I'm mixing up and crunching the salty cabbage. And I mean crunch. You want to crunch it and just mix it and keep crunching it and mix it and keep crunching it just over and over and over and over again. And as you do, some liquid will start to get out. They're starting to get super moist. Tilly Ann. Wrong way, Toots. It's already starting to get liquid on the cabbage. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's already starting to get wet as that salt starts to draw the liquid out of the cabbage. Now, this is going to have to sit for several hours. I'm crunching it right now, but it's going to have to sit for several hours. And as it, I'll put some plastic wrap over the top of it, and I'll stick it in the cupboard so it's out of the way. And I'll just let it sit there until before I go to bed, when I'll pack it into mason jars. And if the liquid isn't enough to top it, I'll add some water until it's completely covered. Now that makes a slightly mushier sauerkraut, but it's still really good. It's still sauerkraut. It's still amazing. And the only cabbage that makes enough liquid to cover itself is really, really fresh. You just picked it that morning cabbage. The longer cabbage sits, cabbage keeps for a very long time, but it loses some moisture over time. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside, rinse my hands off. The difference between green cabbage and red cabbage is that my hands now have a slightly purple tint to them. Not too bad, but my fingertips are kind of purple. Now I have one more project we're going to work on today, and that is getting the milk kefir grains that I got in the mail yesterday started. So I have brand new milk kefir grains, and I have a fresh unopened gallon of milk, and I have a pint jar and a plastic lid. I love these plastic lids for my mason jars. So a clean pint jar. This is the milk kefir that I got. I will have to share the link for it. But there is a group, several of them actually, where you can request different culture starters. You can get milk kefir, water kefir, kombucha. I haven't tried making kombucha yet. I need to get a kombucha SCOBY to get started with that. June starters, just various other starters. And this came in a bag. And these are teeny tiny baby grains. I had showed you the water kefir yesterday, and they were good sized grains. But these are teeny tiny baby grains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully pour some milk into this bag. And I'm going to zip it up. So these groups, you can get kefir grains just for the cost of postage. $1 is what these ones cost me. But they're smaller. They might not be as hearty as some of the ones that you can get commercially. And so you're taking a little bit more risk. The commercial ones, the ones you can buy from specialty stores and whatnot, tend to be hardier, tend to be bigger. The last time I got milk keeper grains, they were not teeny tiny like this. They were big grains. And okay, there's some more grains in there, so I want to add some more milk to that bag. And I'm just going to keep doing that and pouring it out until I get all of the grains. So milk kefir, if you're not familiar with it, is very similar to yogurt, but it's easier to make than yogurt is. Not that yogurt is hard to make, but yogurt requires a few extra steps. So I'm going to just fill this pint jar the rest of the way. Close up my milk. Put the lid on it. This is not a watertight lid, so I'm going to just gently shake it. I don't want to vigorously shake it, just gently. And that will sit on the counter until tomorrow morning, when I will strain those itty bitty grains out and start new milk. The kefir won't actually be ready yesterday. I'm waking up the grains. They got shipped to me, which shocks them a little bit. And so now I'm waking them up. I'm getting them used to the milk that I use. And so probably the first 4 or 5 batches won't be as thick as I like. They won't be as cultured as I like. They won't be as tart as I like. But what I do is I strain those out and I give it to the cats. The cats think it's the greatest thing in the world when I'm waking up milk kefir grains, because they get oodles and oodles of yummy cultured milk, which the cultures help to break down the lactose so that doesn't hurt their bellies. And the bacterial and yeast cultures are the very good kind that our bodies need. And it's really good for pets. Their coats get super shiny and they just love it. And that's just going to go on the counter over there on my fermentation station. Eventually, I want to build a whole literal fermentation station in my dining room. That's one of my goals. After I've got the house bought, I need to replace the roof, I need to tear a tree down, and I want to redo everything inside so that it works the way that I work. I don't have a lot of company. I'm a hermit. I don't have a lot of guests, and everything I do is for what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to do. So that was our day. We started some perpetual stocks. I have my potato soup going. Oh my God, it's going to be so good. Such a yummy night. Started my perpetual stocks. Started my potato soup. Started some red cabbage sauerkraut. Now I have the hiccups. And started my milk kefir. So tomorrow morning is going to be a cider pork stew. I have some berry water kefir second ferments that are on the counter that are going to need to be strained. And who knows? Who knows what else we'll do? That's it for today. Have a good one. Bye-bye.